right, welcome back. Season 4, episode 2. We've got James Brown from
Real Home Solutions.
Real Home Solutions and EXP. He's an agent and he does rent to own. If you are a listener and you are looking to buy a house, or you're a tenant and you're renting, I would just look into rent to own. I know that it's not the nice little, like, I'm going to go with my agent and look at a house and then I'm going to go look at this one. It's a little bit different of a path, but it is wildly effective, especially in this market when prices are rising up. It's a nice little way to get in. And in the show, we talk about how you can beat some competition in this. So I know it's a little bit different of a philosophy, but if you do it correctly and you find somebody like James who can walk you through and who has done deals like this, it can sometimes go smoother than a typical home purchase. So lots of praise for him. He's got years of knowledge. So before I explain it, I'm just going to bring him in. So let's bring James on. Awesome. Well, James, thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us the time on I don't know what it is in Denver, but here it is gloomy, gray, and about to rain. So hopefully you're getting some better weather, but thanks for being here. Thanks for giving us the time.
Right on, right on.
Awesome. In typical fashion, we always start out with a little background on you so our listeners can kind of get a feel of where you come from. The one thing that I've noticed within the real estate world is people come from all sorts of backgrounds, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you. Where did you come from? How'd you get to owning your own company and being a successful agent at EXP?
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot there. Talking about weather, like it's snowing here right now. I live in Colorado.
Lucky.
That warms my heart. I love snow. I grew up in Alaska.
Oh, really?
Yeah, moved to Colorado for college first college and for snowboarding. I was competing back then. Just loved it. So in school, I actually started in business and then switched to graphic design. And that was my career for 25 years. But it wasn't getting me where I wanted to. And I kind of got burnt out on it, even though I love the creativity. And that led into real estate. I was like, I'm not getting where I want to buy some rentals and get that going. And I went down the rabbit hole of real estate trying to figure out which direction to go. Because like most people, they just think, oh, I'm going to go buy a single family home.
Yep.
Turn that into a rental. And then you realize, holy smokes, there's so much more out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's eye-opening when you get into it, the little subsects of real estate you can get into, which is super cool because not a lot of people know about rent to own. So coming off of graphic design, what was your first step into real estate? Do you remember that initial, like, all right, I'm interested in it. Maybe you read some books or you like take an online guru class that kind of gets you the intro video. What was your first, like, all right, I'm getting my toe wet in real estate?
Yeah. Well, my dad told me years ago, back, I think when I was in college, he's like, go buy a duplex and rent out one side. Great advice. I didn't do that, but I did buy a house with my brother and started building equity right out of college. So that was kind of the start. But then, it took me years to get into actual investing. So it was, let's say 7 years ago or something, I was on a road trip with a friend and he's like, hey, check out Bigger Pockets, which anybody in this business knows. It's an online resource community and they have books and videos and all this stuff. So I started following the podcast at that point. Love those guys. They're based here in Denver, which is really cool. Yep. I've got to meet a lot of the people that run it, So that was kind of how that started. And then I just started going to real estate investing association groups in town, reading books, more podcasts. And I joined a multifamily mastermind group, went to weekly meetups on creative financing, just all of it.
Yes. And that's the cool part about it is you can get in. The barrier to entry into real estate is not very high. You can get knowledge without paying for a single thing.
It's amazing.
I remember me and Dan were working outside sales in on my travels while I was driving, because maybe we were driving like, I don't know, 3 hours a day. And I was like, I could get at least 2 podcasts in, and that's not being like aggressive. Easily 3 if they're shorter. And I would listen to like the pilot all the way through, even if it was irrelevant, because I didn't know what I wanted to get into. I knew real estate was like the end game, but where? You can flip, you can rent, like you have rent to own, there's subject to, like all the little niches that you can do. And there's overlap on some, but like as you get more involved in these bigger pockets or these forums or the mastermind, everybody wants to network and help other people out. It's not like they try to keep you out of this because you're going to take their business. There's enough business to go around.
Yeah.
Or there has been. The market's been a little rougher, especially in Denver with prices getting high, but
Yeah. What markets are you guys in?
we are in Wisconsin, southeastern Wisconsin.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I'm in between Milwaukee and Madison, if you're familiar with there. And then Dan is pretty much in between Milwaukee and Chicago.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't get as much snow as you, but our climate is kind of the same. We don't have mountains, no mountains whatsoever. So if you would have been wrong if you picked Wisconsin for snowboarding. That is a fact.
Yeah.
So you start listening to Bigger Pockets podcast. Did you get to any BP cons before they moved it out of Denver? Because I believe they started doing them right in Denver, and now they're in Florida. I think they usually host them.
Yeah, I went to every one that they put on here before it was even called BP Con. Then and I haven't been to one of the out of state ones yet, but sounds like that's a big deal. So you guys have been?
No, we have not been to yet, but I always try to listen to the shows before and after, because they're usually the most like energetic and I'd say inspired at that point. So the shows before and after are always cool to catch up on, because they take the little nuggets of who they talked to or speakers that they had. So there's a lot of good knowledge in that one.
Yeah. Cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, so we got Bigger Pockets, we've got forums, you're going to meetups. Was there like an influential person that you talked to or a conversation that led you into rent to own? Because it's on the macro level, there's not a lot of people that focus right in on the rent to own, but it's such a good service to add to those people that want to buy. I'll call them like fringe buyers. Like it's a very, very awesome tool to use. So what led you into you knowing the direction of rent to own was going to be your path?
Yeah, so one of the meetups that I went to, I met Toby Hansen. He's now my business partner. We got to chat, and he's like, "Hey, let's get together another time, just the two of us," and started chatting. We kind of had similar backgrounds. We're both approaching 50 years old, going, "Man, we got to do something different and quick and be effective." And he's really good at researching different investing models and things. And he was the one that discovered Ron LeGrand, who is like an OG guy. He does a lot of different things, but his main focus has been lease options or rent to own. So we joined his mastermind program, his coaching program. Did that for a while and liked the fact that we could help people that are, we call them like penalty box buyers, people that they can't buy a house, but they want to, right? But we didn't really get much traction with what he teaches. Partially my fault, maybe just didn't know how to explain it, but he's going directly to sellers that have listed their properties like for sale by owners.
Okay.
Trying to convince them to sell to us on terms, like not sell immediately and get cashed out. Okay. That's a really tough sell. And really it comes down to numbers. Most people just need their money. They need to cash out and take that and go buy the next house, right? Very few can give you those terms. And then you got to overcome trust issues. They're like, who is this guy calling me out of the blue with this weird
Yeah.
thing I've never heard of, this deal that he's trying to work. So then we ran across our mentor, Jesse. He's in Minnesota, and he taught us to just go buy houses with investors that can get a loan or pay cash. So that's what we do. We do that. And
Nice.
we've done it two ways. We either have the buyer first and then go let them pick out a house and go buy that house, or we buy a house and then go find the buyers. So it's either
Yeah.
way. So
And
we've got
and the buyer you're talking about, is that the person that's going to be taking the rent to own option at the end, or okay?
yeah, the end buyer.
So do you also, not to pivot too far away, but do you also then help them with like credit repair services and things like that, or do you help them like navigate that so that they're, when that 1 or 2 or 5 year term comes up, you're like, okay, we put them in the right place, they're set up to be able to take this over?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Rent-to-own's been given a bad name, like
Yeah.
by companies and people putting people in a bad position where they can't end up buying or can't buy in time. And so we don't want to ever get in that position. So we really screen those buyers heavily. We work with lenders that really know the programs that they can get into. And, you know, if there's credit issues, ideally there's no credit issues. It's just they need more time on the job,
Okay.
like self-employed, or maybe they're writing off too much on their taxes, not claiming enough. That's more ideal. They just need time. But
Okay.
if they do need any kind of help, like credit repair, counseling or anything, then we give them those tools. So yeah, great question.
Yeah. Do you guys do the credit repair in-house? Or is this like a service that hey, buyer, I know you're renting, we got our lease all done, you're in the house, we plan to get credit repair going, contact John, he's going to help you do all that stuff.
Yeah. Credit is complex. I'm not an expert in that. I'd rather them just work with somebody that does that day in and day out with lots of clients.
Yeah.
And if they don't, if it's not really damaged, usually our lender that we pair them up with can give them some guidance too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We just switched our rental software. We were working with the company, and now I don't know why it took me this long, but Bigger Pockets has a deal with Rent Ready. So we switched over to Rent Ready. It was significantly cheaper. Functionality is a little bit different, but the
yeah,
one feature that they have on there is you can make your rent payments count towards your credit. So as you pay your rent, you can sign up. I think it's like
yeah,
$5 a month or something like that. But at
yeah,
least that's going into positive credit history, which I thought was a really neat feature that I
yeah,
shared with all of our tenants. Like, if you want to do that, sign up.
yeah. That's cool. I couldn't get Rent Ready to work. I was like, hey, I'm a pro member. I can get Rent Ready. I went back and forth for 2 months trying to get them to get it to work. And then finally they were like, oh, we can't connect to your Chase bank. I'm like, Chase is one of the biggest banks. I'm like, why can't you connect?
Whoa.
I was so
Our,
frustrated because it's a
Yeah,
cool software.
we had
we're
issues in the beginning, but it was more on Rent Ready's side. Like we have like the owner account, and then we also have like I don't call it admin or manager account, where like some of the stuff was blurred. So like not actually blurred, but like I could have access and see certain things that I either shouldn't be seeing, or I couldn't see things, and it was just like it was weird how you sign into it too. Like it was, but we got that all figured out, and I think
Yeah,
the only thing that it's missing is like a communication feature between
yeah,
tenants and the property
yeah,
management. So like if a tenant says, "Hey, I got this issue," they have to contact outside of the Rent Ready app to let us know
yeah.
what's going on. So
We pretty much eliminated all my texts from tenants, and it was all going through the app. But then we switched, and now I'm getting, hey, I can't figure out how to put in a maintenance request,
yeah.
and then they'll just give me the maintenance request over text. So we got to figure out some kinks on that one. But we
yeah,
work with JP Morgan, which is a Chase product, and we got it to link right away. And
yeah.
usually JP Morgan is like a frustrating one because they don't link to anything.
Hmm.
So that's strange. That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I'd go walk over to the Bigger Pockets office and tell them to
Figure it out.
help you out.
Yeah, there you go.
Only a couple blocks away.
Right, exactly.
Did you, oh, to go back before about the rent to own,
You know,
did you start doing this on your own before you were an agent, or were you an agent first? Like,
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Jesse, he's like, you should get licensed for many, many reasons. And so that was really good. Worth going through all that. And yeah.
yeah. And we've had another agent on EXP, and on one of our shows after the show, he had taken us through the virtual office, and he'd walk up to the desk and take a ticket so he could sit down with his manager, and they sit down and have like a virtual coffee meeting.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
kind
it
of
was
hokey,
wild.
but it's super effective. Like I go in there all the time to ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we meet in person too, in, locally.
Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
offices aren't too far usually.
Well, we don't even have offices. I mean, we've got one like where mail goes, but other than
Yeah.
that, we just do events out around town.
Yeah. Or was I mistaken where like your manager is somewhat local to you? I think his was in like Chicago or something.
Yeah, we've actually got 3 brokers in Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, one, the designated managing broker, the main one. But yeah,
Yeah.
we've got a team of 3 because we've grown and one couldn't handle it, so we've got a couple thousand in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maintaining through this tough time for agents too. Like most brokerages are just losing people like crazy, but
Yeah.
we're maintaining, so it's
Yeah.
good.
And there's a big lawsuits going through. I think they're affecting Colorado and Wisconsin, um, with buyer agency uh commissions.
Oh yeah,
Have
that's
you read anything on that one?
oh yeah, yeah. We talk about it all the time.
So that is big. And now there's
Are you guys agents?
yeah, I'm an agent. Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we've got a line showing going on in Wisconsin. I don't know if that reached Colorado yet, but Showing Time, which is owned by Zillow. So I guess Zillow is suing the MLS because what did they call it? Antitrust,
Yeah.
something or other. And then the MLS came up with their own Align showing, and they're
Oh,
angry
yeah,
over
we've
that.
got Broker Bay here, and now both of them are options. You can click either because
Yeah,
they're like, oh shit, that state's getting sued, so we
Yeah.
better make both available.
yeah.
And they
So
were.
I'm always trying to get updates on those to see where it's headed, because the buyer agency commission one is worrisome because they're going after some bigger brokers. So we'll see what happens with those.
Yeah, yeah.
Um Going in, I'm not going to make you pick between your 2 kids, your agent and your company.
Hmm.
But where do you find yourself now that you're how many years into to both, would you say, estimate?
We started Real Home Solutions in 2019.
Okay. So now that you're a few years into both, do you find yourself as a very symbiotic connection between the two, where in your mind you're just going out to get deals done and meet people and network? Or do you specifically like, all right, this is an agent or this is a mission for the company? Like, is there so much crossover, or do you kind of go 2 different coins or 2 different beasts of the whole thing?
It is kind of separate, but some of my retail buyers and sellers may also want to invest in real estate. I think probably everyone does. They want to make money. They want to get
Yeah.
rich and wealthy and quit their jobs, but maybe they can't now. So at least I can just help them with the regular
Yeah.
buying and selling of their personal home. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you bring that up on your initial phone call, or is that like just through you're talking, you're walking through houses, they mention like, I don't know, maybe this isn't the house, and you bring up like, oh, have you ever heard of rent to own? And like try to get them into like, I guess, educating them on the option that that is a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah. That comes up because that's in my brain all the time. So if there's
Right.
a to kind of help educate, and that's most of what I do is educate people on
Yeah.
whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Because I'm sure not a lot of buyers that go on Zillow or request a showing even think that rent to own is in their wheelhouse or an option for them. So I'm sure education is huge.
It's huge. Yeah. Actually, I teach a Dora CE class, continuing education class for agents, because most agents don't have any idea, or lenders. Like I teach it to lenders too. Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions and some real concerns. You know, like I said, rent to own has been given a bad name when people aren't set up properly, you know. So that's a great class. Everybody that comes out of that's like, oh my God, thank you. Like I had no idea, you know.
Yeah.
Now they understand how it all works, what to look for, how to do it right, best practices, and how the agents and lenders can also make money where normally it would just be a dead deal. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't get qualified. So they're like, oh, wow, I can, like the lenders, they can get a loan in the pipeline down the road with somebody that lives in the house. They don't just
Yeah.
kind of want to buy a house. They have to buy a house.
Yeah.
And then, you know, our investors get loans. They can get a loan for an investor right away with
Yep.
well-qualified buyers. So lenders love it. And agents
Yeah.
too. They're
You
That's
get
the warmest
long-term
lead you can
tenants.
get.
You get long-term tenants. They're going to take care of the property. You're not going to have to worry about them trashing the place or the turnover repair costs and things like that. So they're invested in the situation. So
yeah, you get it. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
As you go through this, what's the top, or what are a couple myths that you want to bust right now? Like the common misconception that you like either repeatedly hear from clients or that you've heard through a podcast of like, I would do rent to own, but my sister did this and that landlord did this to him. Like, are there any ones like a common theme that you are constantly seeing?
Yeah. Well, I always get the question, how much of the rent goes to buying the house?
Yep.
That's the biggest one. They just assume it. Some assume it all goes. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. So
Yeah.
then I get into what rent credits are. That's an amount above whatever market rent is that's put away. That part is because we want them to have money saved up uh,
Right.
for their down payment and closing costs, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
Unless they prepay that, which is what we prefer.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pay enough to cover that, so they're not having to save up. Um, so that's the
Yeah.
only way we do it. I know other people will do the rent credits, but
Yeah.
yeah,
And I've heard on that one, I've heard like some people getting upset when, all right, you have a rent to own contract, terms are 3 years, 3 years comes up, and they end up not buying, and they're like, I'm out. And they're expecting that money back.
right.
And that's where it's like, man, if you could have gotten ahead on day one and told them like this is how it works and educate them fully that that's not money that's going to come back. That's like the escrow. Like we're hoping to give that to you through the purchase, but if you cancel the contract, it doesn't come back. And
Yeah, got to make
those
it.
that hurts me because that's just education. That shouldn't knock the rent to own side of real estate.
Yeah, yeah, we're real clear. That's non-refundable option consideration, technical terms. Um, and we, you know, that's why we want to come up with a game plan and get a lender involved and make sure they understand what they're getting, make sure they want that house specifically and they're
Yes.
committed to it, right? Not just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I like it. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then along the way, I think that credit repair addition to what you guys do is great because that's honestly a nice metric to check in on is are John and Susie doing what they need to do for credit repair or have they not done it in a year? Because that's kind of a red flag of like things aren't trending in the right direction. And you
mhm.
can call them and say like, hey, you got to stay on pace, otherwise you're not going to make it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That's a
another thing.
nice on both sides of the deal. That's an awesome feature.
Yeah, yeah, definitely got to check in with them.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna
and
say,
hopefully you
do you guys
haven't
have
come
like
into any situation where they haven't been doing what they're doing or they don't get back on the horse.
That happens. Yeah, you gotta gotta prod them.
Yeah.
You can lead a horse to water, but with another horse analogy, yeah, you can only lead them
so
there.
like
Yeah,
with that rent to own option, like do you set them up like 12 months out? Okay, so for these next 12 months, don't be going to buy a car, don't be opening up a credit card and like make sure that you don't have any big purchases where it's going to take away your debt to income ratio or lower that for you to not be able to qualify for this mortgage when we're going to closing in 12 months. And then, like, I think, again, back to what Marcus said, that goes along with the education that has to be part of it. Because if you truly want to help these people and set them up for success, you got to help them get out of their way a little bit. Like you said, you can lead them to it, but if they don't take the action and follow through, but as long as you did your part and provided the information and provided the runway for them, if they trip themselves up, again, they're doing it to themselves. So you're teeing it up for them. They just have to either follow through and execute, or they're going to miss out on the opportunity and probably some thousands of dollars that they were hoping or expecting. I know some of the rent-to-owns that I've seen, like when you explain it to them, as far as like what part of their rent goes to cover the purchase, it has to be after all fees are paid, like mortgage, taxes, insurance, and stuff on the property. When you break it down for them and they understand, like, okay, out of this $1,500 payment, $100 a month might be going towards your future like loan amount. But even at the end of the day, if they're there for 2 to 5 years, depending on how long it takes them, that would only be up to help cover closing costs, correct? So like, if they're first-time home buyers, I hope your lenders are providing them with options, because I know there's a lot of either credit unions or banks that give them first-time home buyer credits or only a 3 or 3.5% down payment.
Right.
I think there's a lot of stuff, and that might be a good niche area to explore for us, Marcus, is maybe looking into the rent to own, but then also first-time homebuyer programs, buddying those together so that the lenders are seeing that they're making progress towards it and we're comfortable providing that option. So
yeah, every time I walk a tenant through one of the properties we're managing, I always talk to them like rent to own is an option. There's no deal off the table. If you guys want to buy this and we can come to terms, rent to own. And I always want somebody to take advantage of it, but most people are like, no, I'll just do the typical, I'll rent and then I'll find something. And I'm like, have you been looking for a house these days? Like there's so much competition. If you can get to a rent to own, that's going to solve so many things. You have time to get into it. You're living in your property, so if you want to do your DIYs, you can do that. Go for it. But also when it comes time to purchase, it's just you getting the deal done. It's not you versus the 5 other buyers where now the price is escalating more than it already is escalated. Like the barrier to entry is so much easier. Yes, it's not the typical route, but man, if you're in it and you are the only buyer contending with the house that you're already in, there's no competition. This is like the best situation we can get in.
Especially with our tenants too, because the houses are like remodeled before they move in. It's not like they have to do much DIY other than making it their own or making it a more comfortable space for them. It's like, they're going into good situations and I don't know. Maybe some people just like the newness of, I used to be like that with cars, get a car every 2 years. And this is like, you just want something different, but
maybe they like the competition. Maybe that's what it is. They just like the competition of the offer and waiting to see if your offer wins out.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Another thing you have to remind them, like, sure, rates are 7%. They're not 3 anymore.
Yeah.
As a first-time home buyer, you're not stuck in a 3 where you're like needing to sell and then you're going from a 3 to a 7. You're starting out fresh. It is what it is. It's a normal rate.
Yep.
If you're renting, it's 100% interest.
Yeah.
I love that. Like,
I like that one.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. Rent is 100% interest.
It sure is. Yeah.
I'm keeping that one up here.
Yeah. Yeah. Use that. It makes sense. So,
yeah.
So if you guys do turnkey, is that what you're fixing?
That's usually what we do. So when I started with mailers. So I would go on Deal Machine, which I heard through a person on Bigger Pockets. Yeah. And as I'm driving around to these areas, because I covered pretty much half of Southeast Wisconsin and Dan had covered the other half. And as I'm driving through these little areas, just snapping pictures and sending out mailers, and somebody called and was like, yeah, I'll get rid of my property. And there was mold on the drywalls, and like, it was an old little cabin built on a slab.
Mhm.
So like nothing fancy at all. But for me, it was $100,000. Like I think this is obtainable. Like when you look at buying a 400,000 house, a lot of pressure gets on there. But this one, I was like, all right, lower entry point. It's a 2 bedroom, super small. And as I go in to like investigate the lot, I noticed that it's 2 lots. So I can later parcel it, which is currently what we're doing. We're
Yeah.
splitting that, building duplexes. But I've
Nice.
had that for, I bought that in 18. It's fully paid for itself with tenants because we went in, we ripped out all the mold in the problem areas. We cleaned it all up. There was nothing structural wrong. We've had to tune up the AC unit in the furnace, but oh, and I changed a water heater. That's about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it has been like a cash cow. Still sitting in cash. So that's how I started. And then after that, I was like, all right, what's the next one? And someone on Bigger Pockets was mentioning like auctions. So I'm like, okay, let's go check out a couple auctions. And I went to I think 4. And then on the 5th one, I was like, I'm buying this house. I'm going for it. And I got like all the nerves were going. It was back like I was competing because I played baseball, and I remember my first start in college. My whole body was like shaking from nerves, and I got that at the auction. So I was like, all right, I'm onto something because I like this feeling. This is like energizing. And that one was a basic teardown. I bought it for what the price of the land was, um, and then rebuilt that one. But yeah, ever since then, I've always been like, okay, let's find the worst house in uh CB area. Like I'd be fine with that. We go in, we buy it low. We've got a crew of guys, they'll go in, we'll fix it up, and then we'll rent it. And then I always talk to people about rent to own. Like, look at the nice house, you can get in here. For me, I'm still getting the mortgage paid off. Like you're getting in a good house. I see this as a win-win solution, but I've yet to had anybody take me up on it. And
Hmm.
that's why it's mind-blowing. And it might be because I'm not selling it correctly or saying the right things.
Yeah.
Like those are things that you with years and years of experience of like focusing and niching on that, I'm sure come to it. Like
Yeah.
it's getting better and quicker because you have, all right, these are the things that have worked and these are the things that haven't worked.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, we typically try to get it rent ready because for us it's less maintenance. If we know everything's working correctly, everything is done correctly, there shouldn't be like a hey, our faucet broke or we got a leak here or the furnace went out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge.
So that's our security blanket with that one. But yeah, we always try to go in and fix it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I listened to a podcast of yours. I don't know who or what show you were on, but you had mentioned with this Real Home Solutions,
Mhm.
you are pretty much nationwide. So your service can go to any states, whereas EXP, you got to be licensed within your state, correct?
No, that's a cool thing about EXP. We can do things and pretty much anywhere. Well, yeah, licensing wise, doing referrals is real easy. So yeah,
Yeah.
so we've got other people kind of with their own standalone companies in different markets. It's growing. It's I think we have 9 or something right now,
Okay.
maybe more. But if there's a state like Wisconsin, we actually have done a deal there. Is
With
that the
Real Home Solutions?
Yeah, well, a combination with our partner in Minnesota, and
Okay.
then forget how.
Oh, because we got reciprocity with Minnesota,
Oh,
I believe.
and
Wisconsin does.
I think we used a different agent. So like, in your market, we could put the puzzle pieces together. You're a
Yeah.
licensed agent. You can make the offer on behalf of our investor, and we would bring our investor. You might have the
Yeah.
buyer. So yeah, yeah, we can do it anywhere. We've done some in Florida. Like I've never even been
Explore
there,
this
but
option for one of our properties right now, man. We got 2 that we're considering listing or we're doing a rent to own. We had it listed for rent, and then for whatever reason we're deciding not to do that. We're going to look at selling it, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that might either be a good rent to own option or finding an
Those are
investor
the
that
ones
wants
I
to buy it.
want to rent to own because, be honest, they're an hour from my house. And if I'm the one that has to go and let people in because they lock themselves out or go fix a toilet, or I don't want to drive an hour to get there and an hour back. Like that's
Right.
not my thing. It's a single family home in a really nice village. Like it's sought after. The inflation or the price points that those houses get are mind blowing to me, but people love it. And that's why I'm like, hey, this is a nice rent to buy option. And I'm just waiting for somebody to take me up on it. But
So if you
maybe
know
I just
anybody,
give it to you and you look for the buyer on that one.
I could. It's harder. Like, because
Yeah.
so here, my best leads are from lenders and agents. And so building a network of lenders and agents out in the business all day long that do run across people, that's the best way, as opposed to, running Facebook ads. And we do that too. We go door knock locally, but I can't go
Yeah.
do that in another market, right?
right? So
Yeah.
so your lenders that provide you leads, is it like, hey, we had somebody apply for a mortgage, they didn't qualify, check these people out, see if you can help them? Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Or they were even under contract and underwriting missed something, or they went and did something stupid like bought a car, like you're
Yeah.
talking, things like that. It's like, oh shoot, we're gonna lose
Okay,
this house.
right.
So we could come in and save it. So I get those calls once in a while.
Yeah. And that's a good source for your buyer leads. How do you got, because you said it either goes one of two ways. You have the buyer first, you have the seller first, which in this, yes, the points are the same, but your path or the way that you handle the deal is way different if you have the buyer or you have the seller. So buyers are through brokers and lenders.
Yeah.
Where do you find most of your sellers? Is that the door knocking? Is that your mailers? Or...
No, so we're not actively looking for sellers because of
Okay.
how, most need to sell cash out. So we just work with an investor that normally would just go buy a rental and deal with renters, which sucks. Now we're working with somebody that's a, homeowner in training. And so
Yeah,
investor,
like that homeowner
we
in
just
training.
we'll just go buy a house that fits our model, like that one you're talking about. It's in a nice neighborhood. It's not a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
They've
you
both
know,
been fully renovated, so yeah.
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. And we don't need them fully renovated. Like some people want some meat on the bone. They want to fix it up. We get a lot of contractors,
Yep.
cash jobs. They're not
Yep.
reporting enough income. They look terrible to a bank, but they're good. They make good money. Maybe they can't, a bank statement loan's not going to work. So they're good, but they got skills. They can go replace that roof or, add an extra room or whatever they want to do to the house. They can do whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny that the misconception of the people that rent to own can't buy their own house. Most of them are the independent contractors. They've got the money. They don't have the credit history
You know, the
or the
W-2 to
2 years of like you're saying W-2 history.
Yep.
Those people they've got the money. They just can't qualify in the typical box of what home buyers would do.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that one in Florida I'm talking about, that's a family from Honduras. They're ITIN, like they don't have a social security number. Those buyers, they could go buy a house if they had like 30 or 40% to put down. The bank's like, okay, we'll do
Whoa.
that. But and it might be a higher interest rate. And they're like, we can't buy now. We can't save up that much now.
Right.
Yeah,
So we were able to get him into a home and give him the time. So
that's awesome. I was
yeah.
just in Honduras
Oh,
and
nice.
the buildings down there, it's incredible.
In what way?
Terrible.
There's no codes at
Mhm.
all. You just build what you want to build. I love it. As a person who would love that, it's great. But then you see it and you're like, man, are these stairs going to hold as I go up them? Like all those questions come in.
That's a
But
problem when hurricanes come through
yeah,
and people die because it wasn't built well, right?
yeah,
I know somebody that goes into these countries after that happens and gives them the blueprint. Like, when you rebuild, do it this way so
yeah,
your buildings aren't collapsing and killing your families.
yeah. No,
Or
it was
exposed
cool. But
electrical wiring, you said, like,
oh yeah, they just pull electrical wires out. They wire nut them and just leave them. Like there's no box or covers or it's
no
the
grounding.
light turns on, so we're good. It's like, all right, I like this. If we can take this into the US, there's going to be a lot more accidents, but man, building would go so much quicker.
True. Yeah, not having to wait for
Um,
permits and
I know. Wait for the inspector to come through and approve it.
Don't even
yeah,
get started on inspectors, man. Don't even get started on.
I won't go there. I won't go there. Um,
Oh
we'll
man.
stay on this one. You had mentioned the when you started trying to get sellers, it seemed like a subject to, which is they hold the mortgage, you're basically going to take over their payments, but the problem you're running into is they need their cash out.
yeah,
Like they just want to be done with the property and be out. Is
yeah.
that something that you ran into multiple times and then we're like, hey, we got to change gears? Or is it because, as I'm finding out, because I'm just now getting into subject to as a, hey, this might be another avenue we can get into. So I'm learning more and more about it. That is a facet of real estate that you could spend 40 hours a week doing just that.
Yeah.
So what was your experience with running into those type of situations? Or were there not many of those?
Oh, I just felt like I was banging my head against the wall because I made a lot of calls. You know,
Yeah.
we get a lot of for sale by owners. So daily I had ones to call. So you
Yeah.
mentioned subject to, I'm in Pace Morby's subject to group, if you're familiar with.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yep. I just read his subject to book.
Okay. I
Wealth
haven't
Without Cash, I believe it was called.
yeah, I haven't read it yet, but yeah, Toby and I joined really early on. What was it, 3 years ago, something like that? And he was like, hey, somebody's got to start the estate group, and do in-person meetup. So Toby and I started that. Um, we spent a lot of time and money trying to find people that subject to was a good fit for. Again, felt like we were beating our heads against the wall. And
Yeah.
like over time, I know a lot of other people have been doing that, continuing to. With subject to, you got to be careful you're not putting that seller into a bad position.
Yep.
So if you, because a lot of investors want to go after those because they can't go get a loan as an investor, right? But what if things go wrong? You're gonna have to cash them out. Like, say the bank does call that note due.
Yep.
What are you gonna do? Can you go get a loan? Is that a backup plan, or is there no other backup plan? So you got to be aware of that. For Denver, it's a really tough market to find them. I know people run across them all the time, and they'll send them to me. And Toby's really good at analyzing deals. And we're like, that's not a good deal. So pass. So we've kind of given up here. Once in a while somebody does find one. But the guys that are having success here, like in our Colorado group, are doing it out of state in other states.
Really?
Yeah, that's where they find the traction. So yeah, not every market's a good fit for it.
Yeah. Not every market is, not every I guess price point, I guess might be that's not the right way to phrase it. But I guess it goes along with market. And then there's like the legal side to it. There's some municipalities or states that are for it, not really for it, but easier for you to navigate through it.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
on the rent to own side, have you seen states or maybe within Colorado cities that are either a little bit more helpful or a little bit more, the rules are a little bit looser, so you don't feel as confined? Because I'm trying to think as I go through a rent to own deal where the legal hiccups might be. And that was always a question of mine as I learned about rent to own. Like, I've never done one of those deals. What am I going to run into that either puts me as a liability or them in hot water as the buyer? And that was one part that like kind of has always left me a little timid.
Yeah. Well, we've had multiple attorneys look over our docs. We had one potential buyer didn't go through. She was not being forthcoming about where her option fee was coming from. So we got way like into appraisal to get her this house, and then found out, oh, she didn't have the money to pay up front. So
Oh,
That was upsetting for her and everybody. It's like
yeah,
we learned a lesson on that one. But she took our contracts to an attorney that we know.
yeah,
And he's like, okay, I'd make this such and such changes because of we've had a lot of changes in our landlord tenant laws in Colorado.
yeah.
Definitely going the wrong way for an investor, and crazy, just some crazy stuff there thrown out there. But anyway, he had some good suggestions. So we have a really nicely balanced set of documents. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to think of like gotchas. Well, and you mentioned states. So Texas is the only state that I know that's way more restrictive than the others. Um,
Really?
it's got to be under 3 years, I believe.
Yeah,
Don't
and
know all
that
the
comes up on the subject to thing too. So that's funny that they have the same kind of timeline on that one.
mm,
That's cool.
yeah, because I think historically, if you give people too much time, they probably won't end up buying. You
Yeah.
know, like,
In from what I've heard also on the lending side, the lenders don't want more than a 3 year because then they should just get a new mortgage. And then they would be able to redo or raise their rate to normal market rate. And then now you're back into that first few years of interest payments. Like it's very advantageous for the lender to get a new mortgage on it than for you to put a lease in place for 6 years. So that was one of the reasons why it was a little bit more um, constrictive on the length of lease that you can put a tenant into. So it's funny that you said that, but I thought Texas would have been the wild card because
it's so backwards from what I would expect too. I was
yeah,
like, really? Yeah.
Random thought. If you had properties that you were trying to sell to a with a rent own option to possible new owners, buyers, would if you could develop a relationship with a bank or an investment firm, what what would prevent you from just co-signing on every mortgage so that these people could move in right away to be able to buy the house and like you basically you would still own the property with them in conjunction with them and then either have a 5 year break or a 10 year break and basically being just a co-signer on every one of the properties and then if something falls through they're still liable but you still retain ownership. Does that make sense? Like, I know it's
yeah.
very
I've
simply
got a
said,
thought.
but
I do have a thought, but if you've got something, I'll let you go with it. But I know that you can only have a certain amount of mortgages in your name. So you'd have to have like a pretty good cycle going where your buyers are then buying you out so you can take that off your name.
right.
Because at a certain point, I think it's 13.
It's
Is that
like,
what I
no.
say?
I thought it was
Well,
10 personally, and then unless it was commercial or through an LLC, it's a little bit different
Okay.
for
yeah,
Wisconsin
when
at
we're
least. I
talking
think.
about federally backed loans, yeah, you're limited to, I thought it was 8 or 10, something like that.
Yeah,
But
Okay.
you can do DSCR loans and get beyond that. Go to a local commercial bank, go beyond that. So that's not really
yeah.
a
Put all the
factor.
loans into one.
Yeah. But so just, I mean, to the co-signing thing, so we can do it lease option. We're retaining the deed. It
Hmm.
that never gets transferred to the buyer until they get their loan.
Mhm.
So they don't have equitable interest in the house until they get a real loan. And that's what our attorneys suggest.
Okay.
Can also do contract for deed. We haven't, Toby and I haven't personally done that. And our attorneys suggest not doing that because in that case, it is like you're basically playing the bank at that point. And if they screw up, you have to foreclose on them, not evict them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there's equitable interest. So there's advantages and disadvantages on both sides.
And now
For
I'm thinking it through too. There's probably tax implications because who gets to claim the
yep,
interest on it? Who gets to claim? Yeah. Okay.
yep, yep. The thing like on the investor side, if you do a contract for deed, it's just like you're playing the bank. You're not having to go fix toilets and do any of that stuff because
Their
they have
house. Yeah.
ownership of it. They've got a loan on it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's funny that you brought that up because I was going through Pace's, I think it was on his Instagram, something social media, and he had gotten a house under contract in an HOA.
I heard that.
So they wanted to get this tenant in, but the bylaws or the declaration page of the HOA said you can't live in this property. Basically can't be a rental, because a rentals, they don't own equity in the home. So what they did in the contract is they made them a 0.00001% owner,
Yep.
and then they got through it.
Yep.
And I was like, he is so creative. Like, how do
No,
you
he's
think
got people that are telling him
Well,
how
I
to
know.
do this. He doesn't come up. I mean,
But
not
hey,
discounting Pace's intelligence, but he's got the right people in place to tell him, hey, this is how you circumvent that issue.
right.
Because I mean, he got around it. So good for
Yeah.
him. Great. But
That's another way of like with short-term rentals where it's not allowed. You make that person that's short-term renting part of the company, like through like a membership type thing.
Ooh,
Membership
because
or
I like this. How much do you know on this? Because where I live, they cannot do any short-term tenants. Like, there's nothing.
yeah, same. Well, Denver, I used to be a super host with a room in my house. It's got to be in your primary residence in Denver. So
Okay.
there was a couple of agents that were skirting that for a while, and I think they went to jail for a bit.
Really?
Made an example out of them. Yeah.
Oh,
that's not a civil issue. That's a criminal issue. If it's going against city code, like how is that? Doesn't make sense.
I don't know. It's
That's
been
weird.
a while.
Unless there maybe tax implications or something. That'd be what I'm thinking right off the top of my head, which would get him caught up.
Sure. Yeah.
but if they want to make a spectacle of it, they'll go where they can.
Yep.
Interesting.
So basically, they just have to buy into part of the ownership of your company to then say, "Hey, I'm a co-owner of the business. I'm just living here, and then we're paying the business to stay here for." Not a bad idea.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I know a
And
guy.
obviously, that would be hard to do with like Airbnbs, but for like 3 to 4 month tenants, like I could see that as a pretty good,
Yeah.
I'll call it a loophole. But
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know a gal in Vegas that's doing that for her short-term rentals. There's got to be some easy paperwork thing where you're not having to go
yeah,
make an update to your LLC or something, right?
right. And you wrap the cost of what the processing fee would be into the rental rate.
Yeah, yeah. For
don't
1,
know.
2 nights, it's got to be cheap.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know
That's
how.
crazy.
Interesting.
I love the creativity.
I do
Yeah.
too. I do
As long as
too.
it doesn't land you in freaking jail. Like,
Right.
let's be
Right.
above board here.
Yeah.
I don't like
I was
losing.
going to ask you, like, because obviously rent to own, there is no standard contract for that. It's all terms. It's all so, don't share the illegal ones. But what was your most creative deal that you guys put together? Because that is like, I'm getting the nervous shakes, where like the adrenaline's going, and it's actually like, it's very inspiring, and you're a deal's about to fall through, but you find out a solution, it all works out. Did you have one of those deals that like sticks out in your head of like one of your favorite ones?
My least favorite one is probably
That was my next question. That was my next.
Well, I'll start with my favorite. My favorite
You want to take it.
My favorite was one where we partnered with our partner in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
He had a guy that was a newer real estate agent. He had maybe a year under his belt. He couldn't go get a loan to buy a house for himself, right? Because he's self-employed. And he needed full 2 years. He picked out a duplex. We bought it for him. He lived in one side, paid a lot less in rent for his side. And then within a year and a half, he was able to buy that, and then also buy a single family home for him and his fiance or wife or something at the same time. So within a year and a half, he was able to have 2 doors plus the house he was living in. And he walked into a lot of equity because, you know, we set the purchase price, the future price from when we buy it. It's you know, agreed upon ahead of time. But this is during COVID when it went woo. Like, so he walked into, I think, 40 or 60 grand equity. And our investor was still happy, you know. He made cash flow and he had a great tenant and, you know, made money. But that was my favorite. Oh, and then because he had been through that program as a buyer, now he helps Jesse screen tenants that are coming into the program wanting to do it. So because he's been through it. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah, so that's my favorite one. Besides the family in Honduras, love getting
Mhm.
them into a house.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
my
rewarding. That's got to feel so good
yeah,
to set them up for success. I mean, that guy walking in with so much equity, the people from out of the States coming in and having like their American dream come true.
mhm.
Like I think that's got to be so rewarding.
It is. Yeah, yeah. When I got into investing, I was like, uh, I'll do it ethically, but it'll just be about money. And then I realized, wow, this is so cool. With what we're doing, we're really helping um, those end buyers with rent to own and our investors building wealth. Um, and they're also able to help people. Like,
Yeah.
I love that as well. We also raise money for syndications for like multifamily, self-storage, mobile home parks, for people that are just busy professionals wanting to get into passive deals. So I love that I'm helping these other people, not just myself with my own investing.
Yeah.
You know, so you asked or I brought up
Yeah, it was gonna be the worst one. The worst
okay.
one.
Um, oh man, so this it was a couple. COVID had affected their jobs. They they're they had some debts that were accumulating, and they're like, but they had a house actually. In this case, we've done a couple of these where they had homes with some equity. So we sold their house. They wanted to move to a rural area in Colorado. Um, Once we sold the house, then we were scrambling to try to find a place in this rural area. Well, many problems. For one, most in their price range were modular and manufactured homes,
Mm-hmm.
which is harder to get loans for investors,
Yep.
for them to get a loan. Um, we ended up finding a stick built one that we bailed on initially because it was a for sale by owner and the owner was a pain. And then eventually we came back kind of hands behind our, we're like, we want to look at this again. And we actually got through it. Um,
Was the seller a little bit more decent the second time around, or
no,
still kind of?
no,
Oh.
she's still bad. But she did hire an agent, a local agent to help work through some stuff. Thankfully,
Yeah.
uh, that poor agent, she didn't get paid much, but she was an angel. I still keep in contact. I try to send her referrals.
Yeah.
Uh, the buyers were pretty tough to deal with. They had high expectations. There was a lot of yelling and crying, and oh my God, it was crazy.
Oh,
But they were grateful. Like we got them into the house.
good.
Yeah, worked through it. But it was rural and there was, septic and well and water testing and two parcels that hadn't been merged. And so there's a lot of complications with that. But we worked through it. And then that made me realize why a lot of like other rent to own companies avoid rural, they want to stay in metro areas near good schools where you don't have to deal with some of that stuff. And if you get it
Yeah.
back, more people want that property than a rural area where you got a really small buyer pool.
Yeah.
Not that we ever want to get it back, but it could happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one question. I know we're coming up in an hour, so I got to stop with my questions. But with lending to modular or prefab homes,
Mm-hmm.
were you getting the pushback from just Fannie and Freddie, like government loans, or like even private loans weren't even lending on it?
Yeah. So I don't even know if Fannie and Freddie will loan on those.
Yeah, I know like VA usually doesn't and FHA won't, because
Yeah.
those are like the smallest of boxes you have to fit into.
Yeah. Yeah. What
I
I was,
just sold my sister's house,
Mhm.
and their lender was going to be their lending fell through about a week before closing. So they had to hurry up and get a new one. It ended up being FHA, and they wouldn't close on the loan because this shed that should have been torn down before had like one little patch of chipping paint on the casing.
Yeah.
It was like a 4 by 2 inch little section. And they're like, that needs to be painted. So I got on the phone with the agent and I was like, hey, I've got the paint, I've got the brushes, if you've got the time. And he's like, I'll have them out there to paint it. So I dropped off the paint, they painted it. The inspector came back in and everything closed on time. But man, why does that matter? But all right, sounds good.
Yeah. Wow, what a pain. Yeah, I know some lenders that specialize in mobile manufactured. They're much higher amounts down,
Oh,
higher
really?
rates, like, yeah, really tough. And so like we had one investor that was all ready to go, that's also a lender. But when we were looking at those manufactured and mobile homes, she's like, I'm out. I'm not gonna
Really?
be an investor on one of those. She's like, I'll do stick built, but
Did she tell you the reason? Because
just
everybody's reason will be different, but I'm
yeah, because it was harder to find those loans,
okay.
riskier. I don't know really where the risk is besides, it's a depreciating asset, unless if it's purged, anchored to the ground and officially kind of seen as,
Yeah.
permanent. That helps. But then also that end buyer has to also get a loan. That might be a lot more down, higher interest rates. So just the numbers might not work because of
Yeah.
it.
Because in the area where I live, and even in the surrounding communities, you can find prefab homes that they drop on a poured out basement. And I mean, it's permanent.
Yeah.
And I've just never ran into an issue with lending on it, but I'm trying to think back to see if I ever had a direct like client trying to get lending on one of those.
No. I know a guy here that focuses just on those. He'd probably have a lot more info on that.
Yeah.
We had a guest, not maybe with one of our last 6 or 7 guests. He would only focus on buying mobile home parks. So like
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of those guys that buy parks, though, they only want to own the land and rent them. They don't
Yeah.
want to own the actual units,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's the Brandon Turner method, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that the case with that guest you're talking about?
I don't recall if he said, I don't know if he had other investors where they would buy just the land, or I think they did buy the properties or the units themselves, because he would fix and flip them, and then I think he would
Yeah.
either sell the units. So it was like he bought the whole thing with the units, and then he would sell off the units individually later, and then either add more. But he said it's harder and harder to find municipalities or cities that will allow you to build new ones. So that's why
Yeah.
it's
None of them
easier to
do.
look for established ones. And
Yep. That's
he
what
said most of those are mom and pop shops that he had success with buying
Yep.
or acquiring. So
Yeah. A lot of people out looking for those. We're looking for them.
Well, if we get a lead, we'll pass it along.
There we go. Cool.
Absolutely. Well, we're past our hour. I want to be respectful of your time, but just because I think rent to own is such a fascinating and great way to get into home buying, and because you can go everywhere, I want to say to all the listeners, like, how should they contact you? Because if they are looking for a house right now, rent to own, look into that, at least investigate it and talk to you to find out if that's an avenue. Because man, if you can have somebody go out and connect the dots for you and you're not sitting in the competition pool of waiting for your offer to get accepted, I feel like it's a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
how should they reach out to you? How should they get in contact?
Yeah. If it's a buyer, they can go to realhomesolutions.org. ORG, Real
Awesome.
Home Solutions, plural.org. I've got I've got a show too, and a lot of other ways to connect. They can just go to Linktree, that linktr.ee, and then
Okay.
partner with James Brown
Awesome.
/ partner with James Brown. So yeah, any investors.
yeah, I'm looking at that now. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes. It'll be on the YouTube video and then also through the podcast, wherever it's listed.
And is your show on like YouTube, Spotify, like
Yeah,
that kind of thing?
yeah. We stream live. It's called This Month in Real Estate Investing. We go through the news of the month that affects us as investors, and I have 3 guests on. And so we just kind of dive into like what we think about that news for the months. Yeah, so
So
we
it's like your
stream live.
newsletter. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
But yeah,
that.
so we stream live to YouTube and my LinkedIn page channel, Facebook groups, and then it goes out to all the podcast audio channels.
Awesome. And then
Yeah.
obviously, if you're in Bigger Pockets, you can contact them on Bigger Pockets because you
Yep.
already mentioned you are a pro member.
Yeah.
So we'll link all that stuff to the show notes. So if people listening want to get in contact with you, I am heavily pushing them to do that because, man, it's a great option.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
I'd love to work with you guys too. So let's stay in touch.
Yeah, I'd love to get out to Denver. It would
Heck
be
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be
My
awesome.
last experience with Denver was not a good one. I was driving an RV downhill through the mountains, and that was not fun. White knuckled the whole way. I mean, just it was brand new to us, but it was a 1984 Ford RV 27-footer, and you see the signs like mind your brakes or pay attention to your brakes, don't burn out or whatever it is, and curving. I did not like it at all, man. I could not wait to get out of there. That was not fun.
That can be sketchy.
It was, yeah. But other than that, yeah, we could check it out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Guys, this is
Thank you
great.
for the time. I will make sure to link, and then I'll shoot you an email and send you the podcast links if you want to either share it with your groups as well.
Cool. Yeah, I will
All right.
definitely do that.
Yeah, thanks for the time. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the snow.